Pete Hegseth, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Pete, you've been saying it for more than a year. Now Bill Maher is even saying it.
Absolutely. Good for him. Long overdue, but good for him. And it was a great report by Mark Meredith. He's a fantastic reporter. But I come away from that even more confused, which is how we've been this entire time. None of the guidance seems to be actually hewing to the science. A lot of it seems to be hewing to politics. And then when you see Mayor Garcetti saying he holds his breath, and then you see Gavin Newsom, he's at the game with Magic Johnson, no mask for him. Then you see Stacey Abrams sitting with a bunch of kids looking like hostages, and she, the one who would be vulnerable, isn't wearing a mask. You see, it's all a ruse. It's always been about compliance. It's always been about saying it's the science. Mandates, as you pointed out, Harris, lockdowns before that, vaccine passports is what they would like to do. Parents have woken up, and thankfully they've had enough. But here's the cynical part. I live in New Jersey, Harris. I am so ashamed. I actually mean this completely. I am ashamed to admit that I have 3 kids that still wear a mask in school. It hurts my soul. It hurts my soul to say that. No, it does. It is about to change. We've tried to get exceptions for them. We haven't been able to. It's a state mandate. But the reason Phil Murphy is getting rid of that mandate, Harris, is not because he's suddenly following the science. The science tells him it's okay. We've known that for over a year, as you pointed out. He's doing it because, and you're going to hear more and more of this, Harris, Democrats are worried about the midterms, their majorities in the House and the Senate. Joe Biden promised a return to normal, and you're going to see governors and others attempt to create that return to normal, not because of science, but because of politics. Phil Murphy knows how unpopular it is. He's going to say, here to you, here, the masses, here's your crumbs, take off the masks, now elect us again, so that the next time there's a variant, we can throw masks back on your kids. So, it's cynical, but it's true.
March 7th will be that magical date in the state of New Jersey. The question is, will anybody follow? And with what we're talking about, the science that had popped early on, it was that when people came out of their houses, we realized, after all the lockdowns, that they actually had a rate of COVID that could not be ignored, but they said they hadn't been anywhere. And then now with this Johns Hopkins University study, looking at all of it together, 24 packages of analysis, and they call it a meta-analysis that they did. Well, now we know. Now we know what we thought we knew, and now we have the receipts. So which states fold in? Connecticut. Let's take a look there. A mother, Jennifer Orr, is going after school mask mandates, Pete, saying they're harming our nation's kids, but she gives a personal example. Watch this.
My daughter is a senior at Foreign High School. She looks over and she sees her math teacher and she says, "Oh my God, hi, Miss So-and-so." And the teacher says, "Oh my God, hi. I didn't even recognize you. I've never seen your face before." Layla's been in that class for 3.5 months. This is dehumanizing. It's demoralizing. And these teachers should see a human face.
I saw that on Facebook. I wanted to show it to you. It actually made me cry.
It gives me chills. It gives me chills to hear that, because we talk about our youngest, and yes, our youngest are it's the silliest that we wrap our youngest in a cloth mask that we know doesn't work as well, and we know they're not vulnerable. But what about the teenagers? What about the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, to this mother's point, who are never going to get their prom back, they're never going to get their senior year back, they're never going to get the opportunity to experience the things we all took for granted because they were right there in front of us. And it's been heartening, though, Harris, to see some of these students out in California and elsewhere. And a lot of it comes back to, look at my governor, look at my mayor, look at those hypocrites who won't do this themselves. Why am I going to continue walking into a school? If dozens and hundreds of students will come together and say we will not comply, that's more powerful than parents at school board meetings who are doing their best. But ultimately, the customer, the end user customer, is the student. And if they just say, hey, we're done, especially in states where they're lifting the mandate, in Virginia, in New Jersey in a month, I think they could have a cascade effect across the country, and I hope they do it.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. By the way, we haven't even talked about the teachers' unions and their role, because the politics are all. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just it's a stew of politics, right? And Governor Murphy in New Jersey's not running in the midterm elections. He's got to help other people get there, right? He just got reelected.
That's right.
And he can't do that if people in his state don't want to vote for Democrats based on his mandates. It's a vicious circle. I want to get to this. It's been 2 years since the death of Dr. Wei-Lin Liang. He is the scientist who warned the world that COVID was spreading throughout China. He called it a SARS mystery disease and that it was spreading, and he tried to get the word out with the video that he was making. I mean, I remember that from the beginning, Pete. We talked about it. And now,
yes,
with more than 900,000 Americans dead, we're not any closer to answers on exactly the origins of this. Because if you say Wuhan Laboratory in my Twitter feed, I get stickered. I don't know about you. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is now vowing to investigate China for this if Republicans, if and when, he says, regain power in November. Watch.
Think about what Nancy Pelosi has done as Speaker. She has protected China from any investigations to the origin of COVID, even though it's killed more than 900,000 Americans. But we'll take action. When we take the majority, we will investigate the origins of COVID. Because you take the actions of the Democrats, I do not know what China has on these people, but it must be so powerful because the actions at every turn stop and harm us, but protect China.
Pete.
He's right. Why does it seem at every turn that Nancy Pelosi and her ilk are more afraid of, say, Trump supporters than they are of the communist Chinese? I mean, look at what she said to our athletes over in these games, which our athletes shouldn't even be participating in. Don't speak out. Don't speak out. The Chinese are like real hardcore, and they might. Why are we there? Why are you talking in that way? And why are all of your policies willing to be complicit to them? We knew from the beginning where this originated from, in China. There were questions about how it came about, and there was an open discussion about that. We saw scientists try to stifle that discussion, including at the very top in Anthony Fauci. No, don't talk about gain of function. Don't talk about a lab. It's all natural origins. And if you talked about it, even to this day, but especially at the beginning, it was misinformation. You were censored to talk about a lab leak. Then more and more evidence, much of it's common sense, comes out that indeed it was probably something manufactured. The Chinese government knew a lot more about it earlier than they told us about it. Yet the Democrats don't want to do something about it. They don't want to hold them accountable. It's insane. And so the Republicans had better double down on that investigation should they get the chance.
You know how I get so unexcited about a hearing on Capitol Hill because it's a lot of political gestures and posturing. But I'd actually like to see the hearing with Dr. Fauci. And the like. I would like to see that hearing based on what was going on inside that lab. And not a battle between senators or making it personal, none of that. I mean, on the record, very scientific. We need to know. And if he can help get us there, we need to ensure that that happens. It's going to be interesting.
That'd be bad news for him, too.
If there's a red wave, it will be very interesting where we go next. Pete Hegseth.
For sure.
Let's get to this before I let you go. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warns Russia is ready to invade Ukraine possibly any day. And how do they know? Because they've got like 70 to 80% of the assets now all in place for a full invasion. President Biden is suggesting that Vladimir Putin cannot be reasoned with. Watch.
We are in the window. Any day now, Russia could take military action against Ukraine, or it could be a couple of weeks from now, or Russia could choose to take the diplomatic path instead.
Do you think there's any particular thing that Vladimir Putin is looking for, sir, in order to make this decision?
I think things he cannot get.
The U.S. military has determined that if Russia invades, it could seize the Ukrainian capital within 72 hours and leave up to 50,000 civilians killed or wounded. A senior Russian diplomat called that assessment alarmist. You served. You've been to just some of the toughest places in the world. Is it alarmist to you, or what do you think?
No, I mean, clearly Vladimir Putin has ambitions to reestablish some orbit of the former Soviet Union. There's no doubt about that. That's what he's. But I don't have any confidence in Jake Sullivan or Joe Biden, the architects of the Afghanistan debacle. Nor do I have any confidence in General Milley, who's the one who gives us this estimate of 72 hours. He gave us the estimate of the Afghan army standing up for a year or two. So it's either going to be 7 minutes or 7 weeks. It won't be 72 hours because we know he won't be right. The reality is the Probably the Olympic Games, when those are over, will be a trigger for international action because they see a lame duck president. And ultimately, Europe not willing to defend itself. It will be on the Ukrainians. How long can they hold out? Nobody quite knows. But the Russian war machine, especially revamped under Putin, is a dangerous one. And they have ambitions. And now they're allied with China. We've pushed them into that corner. No good options.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't tell Putin to do this. This is what he wants to do, and I find it fascinating, Pete, that we're being told what words we can't use. Like, don't say imminent. That's what we got from Jen Psaki last week at the White House press briefing lectern. Don't say imminent. Now we can't say alarmist, or if we tell the truth, it is alarmist. Like, what is that about?
They said the same thing about Afghanistan. I mean, don't say retreat. Don't say the Taliban are providing our security. No, we didn't leave equipment behind. It wasn't a failure. They could say what they want. We see what's going on here, and I think the American people do too. Weakness.
It's the actions that matter. Pete Hegseth, thank you for getting us started this hour.
Thank you, Harris.
Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.